So, Doctor Who Season 2, we finished up last night. I don't know when I last watched that one. It's been a little while. And it's interesting watching it now. With the benefit of hindsight. I don't know, I always thought Season 2 was very strong. And I still think it is. Fear Her, which I only saw once, I don't think I ever watched that again, is just as awful as everyone said. I didn't remember anything about it. But Fear Her is really bad. Love and Monsters I've always enjoyed. It only gets bad at the end. But as a tribute to fandom, and also when you know that the villain, the Absorbaloff, is based on Ian Levine, Doctor Who's super fan Ian Levine, the guy who kind of exploded with rage when they announced Jodie Whittaker as the new Doctor. When you know about Ian Levine, and you look at that episode as a metaphor for Doctor Who fandom and also Ian Levine's impact when he sort of took over fandom. Like, for those who don't know, like, he was a DJ. I guess he still technically is. And he kind of used his, he had some wealth. He produced records as well, and he used his influence to, like in the late 70s. He was already like the biggest Doctor Who fan there was. Probably one of the few people in existence who's like seen every episode that's ever aired, including all the lost ones, because he saw them when they were originally transmitted. But anyway, he was trying to buy up the original copies, in the BBC storage. He was actually wanted to buy up the originals, and that's when he discovered, at least, that a lot of them were being destroyed. And according to him, he is responsible for actually rescuing the Daleks, the first Dalek story. And I don't know, some people think he's playing up his involvement in that, but one way or another, he has done good for fandom, and also, but also he became close with producer John Nathan Turner. And close in a lot of ways. I recently read John Nathan Turner's biography. You want to talk about abuse of power? Just say John Nathan Turner is guilty of a lot of the things that it's been going on in Hollywood. But that's a sordid read. But anyway, but because Ian Levine was able to get in on Doctor Who at that time, he had a lot of influence. He was like a super fan, so he was like saying he could persuade the producer to bring back like the Master and all these other returning villains, and also he was really uptight about continuity. And he also takes credit for awful stories like Attack of the Cybermen, I guess. But just like, I don't know, stories that are just they're all continuity and no story. And that's kind of what the 80s Doctor Who became. And he's also a bit of a blowhard. Again, just looking at the way when Jodie Whittaker was announced as the new Doctor, he swore off the show. This guy who's been obsessed with the show for decades now has had his limit just because they cast a woman as the Doctor. Because when people say, "Oh, I don't see anyone objecting to the new Doctor," well, he's the guy. he's the fan, or he kind of represents that segment of fandom. But anyway, yeah. So if you look at Love and Monsters in that light, it becomes very, very enjoyable. It just gets really stupid at the end, because of course the monster was designed by a child who won a contest on Blue Peter. But even that, it's like, it just makes it kind of just the Blue Peter connection, which I've never seen Blue Peter. I only know about Blue Peter because of its connection with Doctor Who. There's on the DVDs. There's a series of documentaries about Blue Peter, specifically the connection with Doctor Who. There's numerous of them, so I know what Blue Peter is. I just never watched it. But anyway, so there was a big rant about Love and Monsters, and of course, last night we watched the finale, and it is interesting because it's like when you go back, because now it's like, because in fandom, the relationship between the Doctor and Rose has been really built up. Oh boy, this fucking FedEx treading carefully. Anyway, in fandom, the relationship between the Doctor and Rose was really fucking played up, because there's barely even a hint of romance between the two of them until that last story. Which, I mean, I'm glad that anything like that is downplayed. I think that's another place where the TV movie kind of fucked up. It's not wrong for the Doctor to be romantically involved. I just think you have to play it right. It can never... just no love story can ever, I don't know, be the emphasis. I think it has to be subtext, or it has to, I don't know, or take place off screen, kind of like what with a River Song and all that. We never quite know what their relationship is, other than husband and wife. So like it's not until that last episode, and because I think because when Russell T Davies brought Doctor Who back, his way of doing it was making the audience connect with the companion. You're introducing the Doctor through the companion, so you had to feel an emotional bond with Rose, and her, you get to know her family, and that's why her leaving was such a big deal. People already, like new fans of the show, already knew that the Doctor was replaceable. And then they had to learn that the companion is also replaceable. So they make it's like they make more of a big deal of Rose leaving than Christopher Eccleston, which made sense. And I think the love angle had more to do with that personally, but it has been kind of built up, and I hate what they did in season 4. I hate that they kind of undid that story, because it's a sad ending, but it's an ending, and I wish they hadn't undone it. To me, that was the worst aspect of the Stolen Earth. No, maybe not. Now that I've actually said the word Stolen Earth, maybe that wasn't the worst aspect of that story. But Doomsday, it's very good. I remember at the time I was very excited that director Graham Harper is the only director from the classic series to return to the new series. He directed Caves of Androzani and also Revelation of the Daleks. And at the time, he just had a very modern sensibility, very cinematic sensibility, which when you know the way those shows were produced, the multi-camera, they were shot the same way you shoot a sitcom on studio. And to make it cinematic and to actually create a mood through that, because ordinarily you do that through single camera, and you create it through you set up a shot and you control it through the editing. But the way they shoot that, it's like shooting a live theater. So to actually create a cinematic mood and get the camera in places where you usually, it's almost impossible. I don't know how the fuck he managed it, because if you look at Caves of Androzani, it's directed very differently from any other story from the classic era. So naturally, like, he just seemed like a good fit, and he was a good fit to bring back to the new series. And the new series, he practically just blends right in. With the directing house style that they had. But still, it's very cool. He came back. He did the first Cybermen 2-parter, and then he did the finale, and did a very good job. Graham Harper, who was supposed to direct when they had the 30th anniversary of Doctor Who. Of course, it was off the air, and they were going to do a movie, Doctor Who in the Dark Dimension, is one of those things where it's probably just as well it never got made. Because I don't know who wrote, like somebody wrote a script, like someone who had nothing to do with the show wrote a script, and it came very close to happening, but it would have been straight to video, and Graham Harper would have directed it, so at least, I don't know, there's that. They had someone good directing it, and it was going to star Tom Baker, and with the other doctors playing bit parts. I think that's ultimately why it didn't happen, because the other doctors weren't prominent enough that they just didn't want to be part of it. So it was going to be a multi-doctor star. I don't know much about the plot, in fact, but that's another. Oh, getting back to Ian Levine. Ian Levine, he's such an obsessive fan. Again, he's so obsessive. I can't fucking believe. I mean, no matter how against a female doctor he was, the fact that he's given up on the show because of it. It's just fucking crazy, because he's so obsessed with not only having reconstructions of all the missing episodes, but also reconstructions of stories that were commissioned but never made. There's stories like Shada, which they started making but they couldn't finish it. But also there were stories that, like the production team commissioned and they were given the green light, but for whatever reason they just weren't made. There was a whole season when the show was canceled, there was a whole season that was in production that they had to abandon. So he's done reconstructions of those episodes, like animated. He has all these Doctor Who projects, and one of them was the Dark Dimension. He was doing his own reconstruction of the Dark Dimension. And actually, if you go on YouTube somewhere, I'd probably just look up Ian Levine sample reel. You can see it's like an hour long of just like clips of his various Doctor Who projects. It's hilariously awful. It's so terrible. I know that's cool, but it's worth a look.